With radical acts of care, pioneers make a stand, not for memorial, but for resonance.
Resonance is a living, growing artwork. It brings together people, silver birch trees and peat bogs in our changing landscape. It's a convener, a connector and a catalyst for new relationships, for community action and conversations about land use and change.
You almost need a diverse ecosystem of people like we've got here, with scientists, conservationists and artists all coming together to explain why it's important for the climate crisis that we face that we go to work on this bog in the way that we're seeing here.
In the context of looking after the world we live in, the land, the critters and each other, and addressing the nature and climate emergencies, art can shine a light on the interlinkages between people and place, between nature and climate, between ideas, societies, decisions and actions. Resonance does this by bringing the trees, the landscape, the weather and conversations together in a way that will evolve and take shape over the next 100 years because of the people who have taken part in the process, from collecting the trees to planting them in tree circles and nurturing them over the decades to come. The project will be bringing together climate scientists, soil specialists, farmers, hydrologists, system thinkers, people from a lot of different disciplines. And this is really important because the scale of the change, the scale of the challenge that we're all facing requires that we come together, that we create spaces for people to share ideas, to share knowledge, to motivate one another, to learn from mistakes and move forward in a way that really will make a difference.
The Land Use for Net Zero Hub, or LUNZ Hub, is a really interesting project because it is trying to sit right at the intersection of science and policy and bring together a lot of different forms of engagement and evidence to try to make sense of this kind of transition toward land use for net zero nature and people.
My science head and my carbon head says that peatlands are our largest terrestrial store of carbon on the planet, and they only make up about 3% of the land area. So a tiny proportion of the land makes up the largest store of carbon on the land. They're only second behind the world's oceans when we look at total carbon storage on our globe. So they're huge potent stores of carbon.
The passing on of energy through light and soil, through minds and hearts and hands. Stories grow and will be written out in land.
It's really opened my eyes to the other benefits of our peatlands. It's not just about carbon, but it's about biodiversity. It's about the cultural benefits of just coming to these places, having a walk around. It's a tranquil nature, it's a great head clearer.
And even the name bog makes you think, oh, I don't want to go there. But actually, when you get people out here and you tell them about how important it is, they can really connect with the wilderness that they feel and that primeval history of human beings.
I really learned that there's no point doing the science if you can't express it in a meaningful way to those who use and experience this environment and who care and who are just as close to it as I might be. For me, learning how to portray science through the arts was a fantastic experience and really opened my eyes to the wider benefits of our bogs, but also how we can engage with our peatlands. What does that mean to the farmers around this lag? What does that mean to local schools and communities? What does that mean to the activist? What does that mean to all these other different people from different walks of life? And that's why an event like this today is fantastic. You can see all those different perspectives and you can all work together holistically to engage and have your say about why this place is important to you and how can we push that? How can we push that in policy? There's people here from government today who have a genuine impact on how we move forward, how we measure the success of restoration, how we measure the benefits, the ecosystem services of our bogs.
We described resonance as a radical act of care, and you guys are all doing something involved in land in one way or another. We're all in some way the foot soldiers of this.
But from a nature's recovery point of view, tree targets for tree cover expansion are meaningless. We are in a nature crisis. It's existing woodland management that is going to protect the woodland biodiversity that is rapidly declining now.
This is really interesting. I'm actually a forester, so taking trees out is not something I've ever done before, but there's good ecological reason for it, so I'm quite proud actually.
So making the decision at the point of what is this land best for. So if it's high conservation value, carbon value, community value, or highly productive farmland, there's probably better places for trees. We can integrate trees through things like agroforestry, but land use change should take place in those other places.
It's not one size solution fits all. We need to mould it and get the best outcomes for climate, nature and food production and everything else that goes on hand in hand with farming. Particularly in the Lake District, our heritage, those hefted flocks, commoning systems and native breeds, they're really, really key that we look after them for future years. I think different farmers, different landowners will have different journeys. I think that people are very keen to learn and understand more, but I think we have to be flexible in how that is delivered and talk to farmers on their level, communicate with them, speak to them about what they want and how it can work with their existing situation. Working together, not against each other.
But of course, evidence comes from lots of different places and specialism sits in lots of different areas. So it's not all modelling, it's also what it feels like to be on a bog and to see that process of restoration happening and going from industrial site of no hope to something that now has potential and demonstrates healing. Behind me, there are people gently taking up these tiny little birch trees now, or with a vision of taking them to make these 7 circles somewhere else. And you asked me, how does it feel to be here for the first digging up of the trees for resonance? I can hear laughter. And the rain's passed, people are talking, they're working together. And we've had an introduction to the bog. The bog is introducing itself to us. I do feel excited and I feel potential.